So when we got means independence, that time we had 16% population living in urban area and 84% population living in rural India. Hence, India was a highly agrarian society. This, which Mahatma Gandhi told us, India lives in villages. This, so any development when you have, which if does not focus on rural development, so you know that it has no meaning, or it will have no meaning because it will focus only on few, right, not on most. So that was, let's say, that key approach. That is how rural development was conceived as a separate aspect of development, and urban development was considered as a separate aspect. Development as such can be one, but then we conceived in two different ways. One that is called rural, other is called urban, and that is how rural development strategy was adopted. A separate strategy that is called rural development strategy to bring development. When we say rural development, so what exactly it means? The rural development, first thing, if you think about even today, let's say that yes, they can have road connectivity, they can have water connectivity, they can have power connectivity. So there can be today better infrastructure you can find. But as far as health, education, welfare, livelihood, etc. are concerned, still you cannot say with confidence that it has become better. Then as far as governance, because development is also having governance aspect. So know that as we have development administration, the development has also its administration dimension. Backwardness is also because of backwardness in administration. Administration is not developed. Still you know that rural area administration is not developed, and because of lack of development of administration, development does not happen. Can you say this? So ऐसे नहीं समझ में आएगा. I have told sarcastically in past. Suppose you open any coaching in Allahabad. मतलब आजकल प्रयागराज नाम है. Right. तो उसके बाद वहाँ पे क्या होता है? Right. आएंगे पांडे जी. Then it. अपने चमचों के साथ बोलेंगे इनका एडमिशन ले लीजिए. Then it. It's क्या? सब पढ़ने वाले बच्चे हैं. तो फ्री में एडमिशन होगा. This. That's why तो वहाँ डेवलपमेंट होगा. आपने बिजनेस ओपन किया, पता चला बाकी जितने आसपास के लोग हैं सब आपके उधार ले गए. मांगना शुरू किया तो पिटाई हो गई. Sorry to say that. If you understand this language, ऐसे ही होता है. This. So development, let's say that, demands also administration and governance. It's a cyclic process, no? Governance and development, you know that? Even you know governance and development relationship. This. So rural development has also a governance dimension. Anyhow, we'll talk. That is not that important. The strategy was basically, let's say, means if you think any such village today, so that way you can also understand what development we have to have. So road connectivity. First, it may not have road connectivity, direct road connectivity. Still, many villages may not have direct road connectivity. Yes. So, if someone belongs of rural India, and that rural India have some such area where, let's say, even the vehicle may not reach. This, so that kind of things can happen. Right? The road, let's say that road aspect, but it needs power. Electricity, power connection. Still many villages may not have power connectivity, and if they have power, still they may not have 24/7 hour supply. No, the people have their own self. No, anyhow, the power connection is another important aspect. Then water. water irrigation. तो water तो यहाँ भी 1 घंटा ही आता पानी आता है, isn't it? So water connectivity, let's say, now water can be drinking also, irrigation also, so this and that, whatever you can talk like this. But yes, it demands, let's say, it should have the connectivity. Then people should have, let's say, housing those do not have this. So these things can be considered basic infrastructure, especially water if I add irrigation also, because of agriculture. Yes. So basic, let's say that basic infrastructure we can consider. And you know that still they struggle in these areas. Right. Irrigation के बारे में आपको पता ही है क्या situation है. This power, you know, water, so also know that how better connected we are. Plus, let's say social sector, if you see. So there are people, they will send their children to school. Yes. You need a school, right? And लोग बीमार पड़ेंगे मतलब तो hospital चाहिए, isn't it? Health, the school and health. This plus they need recreational other facilities. This plus livelihood भी तो चाहिए. If you are able to deliver these things, that is called rural development. Simple. If you are able to deliver physical infrastructure, socio-economic development to rural people, then we can say it is development, for which we have taken several such initiatives, time to time, that rural development which started. So in this, it was These are some major changes, strategies for bringing rural development, in which basically we focus more on related to schemes and programs, Panchayati Raj institutions. We give less focus to agriculture related initiatives because it is public administration, not GS. This. So, although let's say we set up planning commission and this, if you say institutions की अगर हम बात करते हैं, so block development officer, this, then district development officer, then we set up NABARD, this, that way if you say this, but they are not as important. Then we had this district planning committee, metropolitan planning, institution if you say. So, how we started to develop is सबका साथ, right? Yes. मोदी जी को छोड़ नहीं सकते, जाहिर सी बात, इतना मेहनत किया है उन्होंने, right? So see, it is accumulation of knowledge. When you study your history, when you study your polity, when you study your GS paper, economy, then you public administration, because everything cannot be taught at one place. Because everything are, let's say, we have a different orientation. The paper has economic planning if you read, so that has a bit different orientation. But all in general, we can say that one decade. The first decade was related to, we adopted a 5-year plan, a system of 5-year plan. That was the major development. Then we had industrial policy resolution, 1956, as we have told. Then let's say community development program, 1952. And to implement community development program, we had to set up block development officer and district development officer. You should know that they were not created during British time. They were created once we started community development program. Since community development program was a development program to be implemented, that's why block was identified as a development unit. Block is not an administrative unit. That's why we have not written while writing district magistrate. Block is a development unit rather than an administrative unit. Yes. So block level officer, that is called block development officer. Block level planning was also introduced in community development program. Plus you should know that the government brought other things, agrarian reforms, First Amendment, abolition of various types, jamidari system, this and that you'll find. So those things were also carried out. They started agrarian reforms in agriculture sector, steps were taken. So there are so many things to tell, but then Schedule 9, you know that Schedule 9 and all these things development happened. So this is how we started, but just completing a decade, let's say, we started realizing the challenge. first challenge. That's why Balwant Rai Mehta committee was set up to review the implementation of community development program. And that committee found that the program failed because of bureaucratization. Program was not successful because bureaucracy was implementing that program. Since it failed, so it recommended a strategy that you bring change in the strategy of development. What that strategy should be that people should be associated more and more in the process of development. How people can be associated more and more in process of development? That is called establishing Panchayati Raj institutions. So Balwant Rai Mehta committee was not set up to recommend on Panchayati Raj institution. It was set up to review the community development program. And in the process, let's say it went on recommending that we should have Panchayati Raj institutions. That is how 1958 onwards we started change in the strategy that we should establish Panchayati Raj institutions. And they should be shifted some development responsibility. But their evolution just happened. So when something evolves, it cannot become overnight, let's say that institutionalized. It had its own evolution, which again largely remained very weak or poor till 1992. Meanwhile, let's say that since we experience, also you know about development administration experience. By 1970s, we started facing development problems. Again, development problems in terms of you had drought, you had also, let's say, 2-3 wars by that time. So our society was struggling, means a need was felt that we should do something for enhancing socio-economic conditions of people. Hence, by 1970s, there was a change, and you know already growth model started failing. If you remember development administration, modernization theory, that started also failing. Let's say by 1970s, United Nations also started talking about basic need approach. So all these things, since again they are part of paper one, we cannot write, but that is how the macro level thing. Hence, basic need means the government started focusing on those 20 areas, which popularly we say as Garibi Hatao. And that Garibi Hatao 20-point program is still there. Government has 20-point program, Department of Program Implementation. This an integrated approach were followed. The government started integrated development, name itself IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Plan. This, its name itself is Integrated Rural Development Plan. And our program, you can say ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme. You know that they were started 1975, Integrated Child Development Scheme. अभी भी वो scheme चल रहा है. ये और बात है कि वो integrated नहीं है. Anyhow, so prenatal, postnatal care, this you can say. That is how ICDS scheme. Still we have highest number of people malnourished. Anyhow, then Indra Awas Yojana. अपने आप को क्यों छोड़ेंगे वो? Anyhow, so we started also housing program. You told housing program, socio-economic aspect, infrastructure development. That is how change in the strategy, which euphemistically you can say. इतना सारा तो लिख नहीं सकते ना, तो आप लिख सकते हो रोटी कपड़ा मकान. This is how. उसका English translation आप कर सकते हैं, but वो इतना appealing नहीं होगा. Food, clothing and shelter. तो अपील ही नहीं करता है, isn't it? रोटी कपड़ा मकान, right? रोटी की कीमत, right? मूवी का नाम, ठीक है, right? So this is how you'll find that कि रोटी कपड़ा मकान, right? So because when we grew, still on the wall it was written in our childhood. Let's say we have seen on the schools, on the walls, on the roadside. We'll find that they will write all these things. Roti, kapda, makan, हम दो हमारे दो, इसके आगे रहने दो. So ये सब लिखा, family planning. This. So this is how we'll find. Now government further realized that we need to further decentralize process. So they went on creating district rural development agency. district rural development agency, every state almost will have a rural development agency at the state level. This you should know that. A state will have a rural development agency at state level. It is a non-profit institution, and that rural development agency role is to carry out research, analysis, monitoring, promotion of rural development in that state. Recently, Haryana has created rural development agency. So they try to, let's say, that bring development approach in this rural development. That's why they go on creating non-profit. It is also a non-profit institution. It is not a government institution. It is considered as a non-profit institution. And district magistrate is generally its ex officio chairperson. Means he does not have main role. Rather, it is a kind of dissociation of development administration from district magistrate to other administration, let's say. So this, it was set up. Finally, let's say in 90s, it is a sea change. 90s, we have 73rd, 74th Amendment. Before that, if you let me talk, so we created NABARD as a rural development bank. Since we are talking about rural, it is a rural development bank which will promote rural development through promotion of rural credits and other steps taken, including self-help groups. But it's not important. By the time 90s, we have written, let's say, right-based approach and empowerment approach. This right-based approach is that democratic rights, right, it is right of the people, the right to work, right to health, right to education. That kind of ideas, let's say, came that time. We need to have right-based approach. There are several initiatives on the basis of right. It is a citizen right, citizen charter. It is a citizen right, democratic right of a citizen to get this. The right-based approach plus empowerment-based approach. An empowerment-based approach is that, no, you have to empower, let's say, like say, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. It is for empowerment of people rather than right, let's say that. Right to road to hota nahi hai. This, so, that is what you can. These are macro level strategies. At the same time, you will find that it is constitutionalization of democratic process, Panchayati Raj institutions. Then you go on setting under this, let's say, not here, it is, I should have written, since I have written like this, it is District Planning Committee and Metropolitan Planning Committee. The District Planning Committee will be set up under this as apex institution for planning and development at district level. It is again dissociating district magistrate from development. The district planning committee should become a nodal agency for planning and development at district level. It will be headed by Jila Parishad chairperson, not district magistrate. Again, dissociation from bureaucracy. So that is how dissociation from bureaucracy, let's say, it happens. And that is how it is followed. But then these steps taken, meanwhile you come to know that still development is not inclusive. Still development has not happened. मतलब ये सारा चीज हो रहा है फिर भी डेवलपमेंट नहीं हो रहा है. This, so disillusionment, and disillusionment is that development is exclusive, and already UNDP report, you know that development, jobless, ruthless, those fruitless, voiceless, that we have told. So how develop, all these steps you take, but because of already you know that governance challenge, corruption, faulty, let's say, approach in development strategy, all these things, people not associated, whatever the steps taken, they are not implemented effectively. So all these things, again, every time, let's say, you find the failure, your resolve increases. Let's say that level of failure determines the resolve to take new steps. You start taking more radical, let's say that. So that way we can consider. So it is called Bharat Nirman. ऐसा नहीं कि अभी भारत नया अभी बन रहा है, एक बार बन चुका है पहले भी. तो बहुत कम लोग जानते होंगे इसको, भारत निर्माण. Right. Bharat Nirman was initiated during Vajpayee time. Right. For a 5-year duration. It has a 5-year duration, 1999 to 2004. नाम ही ऐसा है, इसको क्या एक्सप्लेन करना है. The Bharat Nirman was largely related to rural India basically. Knowledge connectivity, information connectivity, infrastructure, telecommunication, power, irrigation, all these things will find. Road. So all these, including with this Bharat Nirman, it is called reconstruction of India. APJ Abdul Kalam told that it is a new deal of India. It was a very lofty scheme, apne time ka. This, so that will find this. Still, when UPA government came to power in 2004, still we had this growth was exclusive, not inclusive. So UPA time, flagship culture came. This is how flagship program, let's say that. So flagship program, we had 8 flagship program initiated during UPA time. And some prominent of them is, you know that, Manrega. Manrega you have one such. There are other schemes and programs under that. We have Rajiv Gandhi, Vidyutikaran Yojana we had. So that kind of thing government started. Plus some old scheme they included, midday meal scheme, this they included. Plus they also brought some other types of statutory backup, Food Security Act, Forest Right Act, this. So that kind of unorganized sector, Social Security Act, those things. In a way, it was a flagship program. Flagship program is they clubbed old and new program so that we can have more and more inclusive development. So focus is increased on health and education. Health and education focus increased. Plus, since Panchayati Raj institution are also part of the strategy, they started further, let's say that empowering Panchayati Raj institution. You know that ERC second was constituted, one separate report is on Panchayati Raj institution. So therefore, to improve Panchayati Raj institution, it created a separate ministry also. Ministry of Panchayati Raj institution, 2004. Then to promote Panchayati Raj institution, it started also publishing devolution index since 2006, which we'll talk you separately when we'll take PRIs. Means attempts were also made to empower Panchayati Raj institutions, this in the development process. And that is how you'll find that these steps. Plus e-governance means digitalization help was also taken. The government started bringing digitalization means e-governance help, and it initiated e-Panchayat as one of the mission mode projects under National E-Governance Plan. And that is how this process happened. But you know that by 2014 there was change. A new party comes to power, and when it comes to powers, it will try to re-strategize all those things. So all those things have been re-strategized, reformed, reintegrated. That will find this. And then it has taken lots of steps, which I say in one nutshell called multi-pronged approach. Right? इतना सारा बात करने की क्या जरूरत है? Multi-pronged approach, isn't it? So this is how you can say. So it is a multi-pronged approach. In that, we have written that the government has been very aggressive in digitalization because it thinks that digitalization can bridge the gap between rural and urban aspect, and huge level of digitalization has been done, which we'll talk you separately when we'll take Panchayati Raj. It is one such government strategy to bring rural development through digitalization. You can see that many schemes and programs have been digitalized, including direct benefit transfer you can find. This local level, let's say portals, e-Gram Swaraj, etc., etc. That we can say. Then it has taken again so many schemes and programs, which separately I will tell when we'll take programs and schemes. So it has taken again, let's say one is called this urban mission. Pura is changed to this Rurban, you can say that. Pura has been asked in GS also, right, and in public ad also. Rurban we have been expecting. So Rurban mission was, let's say, rural. It is nothing but bridging the gap between urban and rural areas by providing urban facilities in rural areas. It is about a smart village when we have a smart city. Yes. And mother of all schemes. तो आपको अगर कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा है कहीं भी कुछ याद नहीं आ रहा है और प्रेजेंट टाइम के बारे में लिखना है सो आत्मनिर्भर भारत लिख this. So that is how we'll find. So you can see that so many things we have done. First, initially we followed a centralized model, growth model. Then we try to democratize, decentralize, and dissociate from bureaucracy during 70s, 80s, but it was not successful. Then finally, let's say 90s onwards, we try to democratize through constitutionalization, institutionalization, 23rd, 24th Amendment, and then we try to strengthen it. That is one aspect of the strategy. Then the second aspect of the strategy in terms of socio-economic development schemes and programs, we find that we have taken time to time schemes and programs, and those schemes and programs can be growth model based, need based, right based, empowerment based, this we can say. And we have changed gradually, let's say, schemes and programs in which we have tried to bring more and more digitalization now and participation of people so that there is greater effectiveness. And hence, let's say that the achievements, if you talk, which we started, so this if you take today, so it is, how much we have? $36. Yes. It will be, I think, 36, 37, whatever. No. So still we may not have very satisfactory development. In the same time, other countries, China, Japan, others, they have brought more people in urban areas than us. Yes. But it is not about how many people you have urban area. Level of urbanization can be one manifestation of development, but certainly it cannot be a very qualitative manifestation of development or a comprehensive manifestation of development. This. That way we can say. Still, let's say most of the people are dependent on agriculture. And rural Indias, they face crisis-like situation. I told you that youth classes, almost youth classes, no. So in evening they eat gole. Right. This youth class is almost, let's say that spoiled class. You can say that almost they are spoiled. This because of all this disillusionment. And already we have told कि education का quality क्या है, health का quality क्या है, you know it better. Yes. Still they don't have the quality of education which is accessible for other people. In the name of private schools, you know what they do that. This the only, as we tell that, the only name is written there, isn't it? Thakur International School. This है तो ठाकुर ही लिख दिया international. This, so this is what you'll find, right? The quality in terms of all these things. So quality matters, and that is how governments are taking still. Be positive, governments are taking lots of steps to bring change in rural development. That way we can consider. So this is what we have to summarize. So let's write on this. When India got independence, it was highly backward, it was highly backward and largely agrarian economy. Agrarian economy. That's why Mahatma Gandhi remarked, that's why Mahatma Gandhi remarked, India lives in villages. India lives in villages. Villages. And therefore, any development without rural development, any development without rural development would be simply meaningless. Would be simply meaningless. Hence, rural development assumed a special significance. Rural development assumed a special significance. Change paragraph. Since India adopted development planning with a 5-year plan approach, hence rural development strategy was also based on bureaucratic model of development. During 50s, following steps were taken. Like first, creation of Planning Commission and NDC. With 5-year plan approach. Next, Industrial Policy Resolution 1956. Next, First Amendment Act to bring agrarian reforms. Next, Community Development Program. 1952. Change paragraph. Therefore, all such steps were influenced by approach of development administration. Which continue to influence till 1970s. Phase second. First you can write, first part we have written, phase first. Thereafter, heading you can write, rural development strategy and foci. Heading you can write in phase first, rural development strategy and foci. Rural development strategy and foci. phase second, 1970s. 1970s. 70s. Some changes were introduced in strategy. Some changes were introduced in strategy. Strategy of development. Largely due to failure of growth model. Failure of growth model. Largely due to failure of growth model. That first basic need approach was adopted. Basic need approach was adopted. Next, integrated development schemes were initiated. Integrated development schemes were initiated as mentioned above. As mentioned above, which popularly came to symbolize roti kapda makan. Roti kapda makan, food, clothing and shelter. Food, clothing and shelter. Next, in 1980, DRDA was established. DRDA was established, a non-profit institution meant for development administration. A non-profit institution meant for development administration. Development administration. Generally, it is a trend. Generally, it is a trend that a state constitutes a rural development agency. A rural development agency for development research, promotion and monitoring of development process. DRDA was an attempt to dissociate district magistrate from development administration. DRDA was an attempt to dissociate district magistrate from development administration, as he was made its ex officio chairperson. DRDA was responsible for promotion of development and implementation of development schemes like IRDP. Its practices have institutionalized. Which have given rise to DRDA administration. Second paragraph. However, the rural development model remained by and large bureaucratic, centralized, the rural development model remained by and large bureaucratic, centralized and top-down approach. Top-down approach based on socialist pattern of Nehru Mahal Nobis model. Socialist pattern of Nehru Mahal Nobis model. Phase 3. Phase 3. Radical steps were taken. Radical steps were taken. Radical steps were taken to bring paradigm shift in the rural development strategy. Rural development strategy. First, constitutionalization of democratic governance. Constitutionalization of democratic governance through 73rd, 74th Amendments. 73rd, 74th Amendments. So that development is done through local governments rather than bureaucracy. Next, right-based and empowerment-based approach. Right-based and empowerment-based approach for socio-economic development. Socio-economic developments. Economic developments. As against growth model of development. Growth model of development. Hence, at district level, it was expected. At district level, it was expected that district planning committee would become a nodal agency. District planning committee would become a nodal agency for planning and development. Headed by Jilla Parishad chairman. Headed by Jilla Parishad chairman. Jilla Parishad chairman. This strategy was further strengthened. During 2000. First, under Vajpayee government, through Bharat Nirman and Gram Sadak Yojana. Gram Sadak Yojana means Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. Next, during UPA tenure, flagship program approach was adopted. During UPA tenure, flagship program approach was adopted. That is, by 1996, it was realized that the development model was not paying off. The development model was not paying off. As UNDP report highlighted, growth was jobless, ruthless, voiceless, fruitless. Growth was jobless, rootless, fruitless, voiceless, ruthless. नहीं याद है, जो याद है लिख देना बस. राइट. मैं बोलता रहता हूँ अपने मेमोरी टेस्ट करने के लिए. ठीक है. नहीं आओ. तो जॉबलेस तो याद रहेगा 10. बाकी किसी को रैंडमली याद रखना है. इट गेव रिपोर्ट विच रिकमेंडेड कि हाउ ग्रोथ वाज जॉबलेस and ruthless, voiceless, fruitless. बस. anyhow, देखो ये सारे सिंबॉलिक इंफॉर्मेशन होता है. जब आपको बहुत ज़्यादा लिखना होता है तो यू टेक द हेल्प ऑफ सिंबॉलिक इंफॉर्मेशन. दैट विल सेव यू. राइट. इफ यू डू नॉट हैव सिंबॉलिक इंफॉर्मेशन, then you will write whatever you will write, it will be less effective because they will be very this and that kind of development, right? This. Anyhow, so this, therefore, let's say, therefore, government has to re-strategize. Therefore, the government has to re-strategize development process to make it inclusive. Hence, following steps were taken. First, e- 11 and 12 5-year plans. 11 and 12 5-year plans objective was inclusive development, focusing on social sector. Next, some old programs clubbed with new programs came to be known as flagship programs to give special emphasis including Manrega midday meal. Rajiv Gandhi village electrification program. Etc. Next, it brought statutory backup for social justice, like Forest Right Act, Manrega, Forest Right Act, Manrega Act, Food Security Act, Next, we try to strengthen Panchayati Raj institutions. By creating Ministry of Panchayati Raj institutions. Ministry of Panchayati Raj institutions. Let's write. Phase 4. 2014 onwards. The government adopted a multi-pronged approach. In rural development. By following the philosophy of minimum government, maximum governance, and citizen-centric administration. Hence, it follows first aggressive digitalization approach through Digital India Initiative. For making development people-centric. Next, strengthening Panchayati Raj institutions by taking a set of steps including capacity building of PRIs, beginning of village development plan, e-Gram Swaraj, etc. Next, redesigning development schemes and programs. To overcome weaknesses of past. By making them more institutionalized. And people-centric through empowerment-based approach. Like rural mission, first Urban Mission, next Swachh Bharat Mission, Swachh Bharat Mission, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Ujjwala, Ujjwala, Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana, Adarsh Gram Yojana. Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. There are other schemes not coming in mind. Aishman Bharat, Aishman Bharat, Jam Trinity, Jam Trinity, Trinity, debated, debated, and then finally Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat, change by outlets. Therefore, lots of steps have been taken to, lots of steps have been taken to bring rural development, bring rural development in terms of first physical infrastructure, next socio-economic development, next digitalization, next self-governance, and hence one can find that today rural India is much more transformed than what it used to be in past, led by Ministry of Rural Development, Okay. That there are progresses like first road infrastructure and connectivity. Next, telecommunication, ICT and digitalization. Next, electricity. Next, socio-economic welfare schemes and programs. Welfare schemes and programs. programs. That government has to its credit some of the most successful schemes, ever implemented like Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, Swachh Bharat Mission, Ujjwala, Swachh Bharat Mission, Ujjwala, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Jam Trinity, and hence there is a significant level of bridging of rural-urban divide, bridging of rural-urban divide. However, still rural areas face tremendous challenge, and crisis, livelihood crisis. Like first, agriculture is in distress and crisis. Next, lack of employment opportunity. And migrant crisis. Next, still more than 50% people are dependent on agriculture in rural India. Still more than 50% people are dependent on agriculture for livelihood support. India has made slow progress on within that first level of urbanization. Second, Human Development Index, multidimensional poverty index. And hence government should focus on policy effectiveness. Which is affected due to first, administrative bottleneck with bureaucratic approach. Bureaucratic approach. Next, poor institutional capacity of local self-government. Next, overlapping nature of socio-economic programs and schemes. With huge administrative cost. huge administrative cost. Right. And these problems need to be tackled. These problems need to be tackled. Right. By following the approach of principle of subsidiarity. By following the approach of principle of subsidiarity and debureaucratizing rural development. Debureaucratizing rural development. Rural development. A bottom-up approach. A bottom-up approach with support of Niti Aayog. Support of Niti Aayog, including aspirational district initiative. Aspirational district initiative may go in long way in bringing rural transformation. May go a long way. Aspirational district initiative may go a long way in bringing rural transformation. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. हो गया. क्या? So, see, towards end we have told about, it is just a summary of what the strategy and etc. you have. Then towards end we have told about the present government. It is the multi-pronged strategy. One is technology, another is socio-economic, redesigning the schemes and programs. Third is it wants to follow empowerment approach and devolve powers to people level. Since PRIs will do separately, so no need to talk all those things again. So this way, plus it has some of the schemes and programs which are highly successful. And in fact, they are the, can consider that they are the best successful schemes and programs, right, in such a short span of time. So it is Swachh Bharat Mission, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, Ujjwala scheme, JAM Trinity. So these schemes have been highly appreciated. Even civil society organizations have appreciated them. They are, let's say that, among the best implemented schemes. And it is because of, let's say, the government brought some changes in the policy design, especially related to its institutional aspect, people participation, focus on attitudinal and behavioral approach. Know that the first time sex ratio cross women more than men. So this way, let's say, you can consider Ujjwala scheme, let's say, giving guarantee to this smokeless chulha, means this is how gas cylinder, etc. is good for health of the women ownership. Since we are not talking other schemes, it can be Pradhan Mantri, let's say Fasal Bima Yojana, it can be, let's say, housing scheme. There are other schemes and programs which we do not generally follow, but you will know when you will study your GS papers, you will know other such schemes and programs. Since they are largely socio-economic related, that we talk about. Plus, even if it has successful, digitalization has been successful, all these things we have done. But still you know that the challenge is our growth of urbanization is slow. This we have brought, let's say, 36%, 36% and 16%. So you can imagine what we have done, let's this aspect. Second aspect is that if you take various types of indices, our performance is very slow. be it Human Development Index, Poverty Index, Gender Gap Index, these things, nourishment, malnourishment, number of absolute poor people, this will find. Why these things happen? Because we have some of the problems. Three problems we have macro level we have tried to tell. First is related to basically administration. By and large, we are still bureaucratic. You should know that when farmers protested 1 year back, so one article was written that was related to we should have All India Rural Development Service. That article was talking there is a disillusionment in rural India because we have followed bureaucratic approach in development. And bureaucracy has, instead of bringing development, it has been rather, it is, let's say, dependency theory, the way it highlighted. Many a time it is underdevelopment rather than development. So that has been one aspect. Still it is bureaucratic, and that's why a question even UPSC asks in that fashion. Then we say that this lots of administrative cost you have. So many schemes and programs. It is called that show me the person, I will show you the scheme. This rather multiple. और अब तो इस तरह का डिबेट ही नहीं है. फ्रीबीज कल्चर, फ्ला अभी तो क्या कर्नाटक में क्या चल रहा है. ग्रेजुएट होगा तो इतना पैसा मिलेगा, विमेन होगा तो इतना पैसा, गर्ल होगा तो ऐसा पैसा, और जो सब कुछ नहीं है क्या मिलेगा उसको? Isn't it? Anyhow, but ये सारे इस तरह का कल्चर बन गया है. So फोकस जहाँ पे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है वहाँ पे नहीं है, जो मेन फोकस है वहाँ पे नहीं है. आपको लगा कि चलो 4,000 अकाउंट में आ रहे हैं ना डेवलप, अरे स्कूल में कोई टीचर ही नहीं है, वो 4,000 लेके क्या करेगा? उसको तो 40,000 देना पड़ेगा. जिसका बच्चा नहीं पढ़ेगा, स्कूल में पढ़ाई नहीं होगा, हम तो इस तरह की बात ही नहीं कर रहे हैं. राइट, वी डोंट हैव एनी सच टॉक डिस्कोर्स इन आवर सोसाइटी टू रिड्यूस द रेलेवेंस ऑफ कोचिंग सेंटर्स. सॉरी टू से दैट. रादर कीप कॉलेज एंड स्कूल्स वीक and that will result into growth of, और यही मॉडल चल रहा है. This a negative model. You don't have a thinking. that is salary क्यों दे रहे हो फिर उसको? He is taking salary also and teaching in coaching institute also. This तो उसका एस्पिरेशन ज्यादा है, फ्रीडम, isn't it? तो स्कूल में ना तो आप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोवाइड करो, हेल्थ में तो डॉक्टर नहीं है. This is how the situation, you know that. But if you give someone health benefit, अरे क्या करेगा? इंश्योरेंस, हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस, क्या करेगा हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस का? डॉक्टर ही नहीं है वहां. So basically, do you want कि वो सुसाइड करे? So you will give insurance. It means पहले अपना हेल्थ खराब करो, आओ इंश्योरेंस मिलेगा. So fundamentals change नहीं हो रहा है. One day I may have told you somewhere, the fundamentals, unless you change the fundamentals, the change in society structurally will not happen. This, and that is a challenge. Change happens, but it is slow. So many schemes and programs. Why you have so many times debate होता है, debate यहाँ तक जाता है, फिर पता ही नहीं. ये जो पढ़ने वाले बच्चे हैं वो पढ़ते हैं उसको यूनिवर्सल बेसिक इनकम. तो 2-4 साल चला, हम लोगों ने भी पढ़ाया, जनरेट. अब कोई बात ही नहीं करता है. बात करता है यूनिवर्सल बेसिक इनकम का? बिल्कुल. अब तो आत्मनिर्भर भारत आ गया. सो ये जो डिस्कोर्स है, राइट, वन आफ्टर अनदर, राइट. But lots of duplication of schemes and programs you have. This, and उसमें बहुत सारा corruption होता है. I shared you one story in Uttar Pradesh. बीडी worker. तो अखिलेश करके government started, let's say, it will give benefits to बीडी worker. पता चला सब लोग बीड़ी बनाने लगे. इसलिए कि what is the certification? Right. ये तुगलक वाला स्कीम हो गया. Sorry to say that. कि स्कीम you like, you bring it and it has no any basis, like, or people are happy, right? So जो बेसिक फंडामेंटल्स है, चैलेंज ये हो रहा है कि जो आपका बेसिक फंडामेंटल्स है वो वीक है, और जो पेरिफेरल थिंग्स देयर वी आर गिविंग मोर फोकस, एंड देन आपको लगता है कि इतने सारे चीजें तो हो रही है. This is how these things are happening. So that is the flaw basically. And unless you change that aspect, change may not happen properly, especially in the backward states, you know that. Southern states are better, and better means further better they will become. This, this is how they become better, the further better. Better achievement is their film industry now. This, it's such a huge now, you can see this. They can feel proud of that, but they have struggled a lot for a certain number of decades. But they have kept their culture. You can imagine that. They've kept their culture. They make it there. Still they make the movie in their language. यहाँ तो जो हमारे बॉलीवुड में है ना, तो इसको मान लो हिंदी तो आता नहीं है उसको, कैटरीना कैफ हिंदी भी इंग्लिश में बोलेगी. so so that is how the situation. So this is how now time has come. और नॉर्थ इंडिया में कोई इंडस्ट्री नहीं. Just can you imagine? नॉर्थ इंडिया, right? तो योगी जी ने एक मीटिंग किया, भाई हमारे यहाँ भी आओ. This, but it takes time. It is more cultural, let's say that. Southern movies, they have the culturally rooted. This happens. They have maintained it. And North India, it is a good development for southern state. It is a big hope for their further investment, development. Because art and culture, these things also promote development. This, so that is how we can consider. What we need to do, that is how in the brief we have told, you need to eliminate it. The duplication, administrative aspect, and we have mentioned also Niti Aayog, aspirational district, that all blah blah things, right? So we'll finish. Finally, we'll take tomorrow Panchayati Raj institutions. Right?